All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Sunday, late afternoon, kind of early evening, joined by Matt Belman. Matt, 3 days in a row here for me. That's kind of a rarity. I got to fill in for Mr. Lindquist, aka Patient Zero, with whatever malady was afflicting him on Friday. So I had a fun little weekend with everybody here. How have you been in the
Wasn't
23 hours since I've seen you?
wasn't his throat really bothering him? Or no, that was Puppet Linguist. Sorry, I forget. Uh, it's been good, man. Yeah, been a nice whirlwind of 24 hours. Life is always crazy over here, but happy to be back talking some hoops with you. Last night was a pretty typical NBA slate, but you needed Jalen Duren early. I mean, he
Yeah.
was a monster. If you didn't have him, you probably weren't winning anything big. But yeah, a lot of the stuff we called on was right. Some of it was wrong, as per usual.
Yeah, it's the way the cookie crumbles. I ended up going to bed about 9:15 because nothing good was happening for my fantasy team. So I was like, all right, stayed up way too late on Friday. Tomorrow I've got an eye doctor appointment first thing in the morning, so I will be going to bed early tonight as well. But let's talk about today's slate. Two games at 6, two at 7, two at 9:30. Quite a bit of injury reporting that is still pending with that. The Lakers, Clippers, and then Minnesota in particular for the late game. So we figured it'd be easier just to go game by game here because this is a unique slate. Now, all slates tend to, be unique and have their own little idiosyncrasies, but this is just kind of some weird mashups. The two pay up options we're really looking at would be Luca and LeBron, but one or both could sit or they could both play. We don't know for sure. The Lakers are already shorthanded. Utah sitting there basically their entire starting lineup. They're sitting their five best players tonight. So they are going to be the source of value, but it's also leading to some appropriately priced players not getting enough love for their boom bust outcomes. So things are going to be a little more interesting tonight as we construct the puzzle. But let's take a peek here at our first game, Matt. New York at Miami. We know that Jaime Jaquez and Andrew Wiggins are both out. They each have ankle issues. Mitchell Robinson is playing. You'll want to remember that the amazing rebounding season that Karl Anthony Towns is having, that's going to change a little bit, most likely, when he's playing alongside Mitchell Robinson. So these are the little things we want to remind everybody because these are, it doesn't feel like a major change, but even if Robinson's getting 18 to 24 minutes, that's mostly going to come alongside Cat. So that could impact him. What are you seeing here from our first game here, especially with Miami missing a couple people? Can we trust Coach Eric Spoelstra?
It depends on how you interpret the word trust, but for me on the Miami side, like I think there are pieces in play, Hero and Bam, namely, but I don't think they're must-haves like at their respective price points. It is good matchups. The Knicks aren't good defensively. Hero's been really, really good. Bam is under 8K with power forward eligibility. You've got no Wiggins, who obviously is going to eat up some usage. Um, it's the first game, though. We've got a lot of news we're waiting on. There are some teams in really good spots, Utah for one. So I don't know if I want to prioritize anything from the Miami side early. If I did, it would be Hero and or Bam, but it's allocating quite a bit of salary for guys that are good plays, but I don't think great plays relative to salary.
All right. Well, could I interest you in an Alec Burks Remember Me game potentially here if he's in the starting five?
I mean, probably not. I mean, if he's in the starting five, I think he's a viable value. That's about it.
I want to see what I'm going to drop this into YouTube. This is something I've had fun looking at lately. So this is the Stokastic projected starting lineups page. So we have Haywood Highsmith starting, which I believe he got the start last time as well. Davion Mitchell, Hero Highsmith, Adebayo, and Ware. But you can see there's a couple notes here, but we also see in these notes where it says Wiggins and Hawkes are out. Spoelstra could go in a variety of ways with their minutes. Haywood Highsmith could start. Burks, Rozier, Duncan Robinson are also candidates for increased roles. Okay. that makes things a little interesting here. But we're going to kind of play whack-a-mole, I guess. So that's where the trepidation comes in just a little bit here with these players. Now, currently, if we look at a projections run that just came through, it's Kalel Ware, who is the most popular player on FanDuel. He is 22% from the Miami side here. Davion Mitchell, 18%. Tyler and Bam in the mid-teens. It's Alec Burks, which is why I mentioned him. He's 3,200, and he has point guard, shooting guard eligibility on DraftKings. That's pushing him up in the popularity ranks at the moment. But I agree with you. Some of the later value, and we are unlikely to have the full picture of what's happening with those two 9:30 games even before the 7 o'clock games lock. So you're buying time by waiting. You could be rewarded or perhaps not. So we shall see. We shall see in that one. And then looking over here at OddsShopper, I can see that the best wager right now with an 11 rating, which is why I wanted to call it out, an 11 OddsShopper rating for the under points plus rebounds plus assists for Kalel Ware. That is 23.5 under, and you can get that at Hard Rock, available in my state of Florida and in several other states. But that is a good deal at minus 105 with true odds of minus 118. What do these numbers mean? Well, it means that's how you get an expected ROI. They do the OddsShopper algorithms do the heavy lifting for you. So we'll call out a few of those good ones, but that's just one thing I wanted to mention there because we had a lot of OddsShopper Hall of Fame screenshots that came out. If you make $1,000 in your sports wagering by using OddsShopper, you can get a free month if you follow those instructions. So keep that in mind. All right, let's look at our other 6 o'clock game here. I mean, the usual. Brunson could be fine. Cat could be fine, right? The usual caveats. This next game, Toronto at Orlando, not overly exciting. You've got Agbaji hurt his ankle early in the last game, so he has been ruled out. But we do have, I think, the rest of the teams get their true depth chart up here. Toronto should be at mostly full health, which they are. So that kind of, things to get crowded again because they've been missing a few players here and there. But everybody's coming back in full force. You have the Orlando side. They still have no Jalen Suggs. Basically, he's going to be out for pretty much the rest of the regular season. He may come back in April, but they've ruled him out for all of March already with his knee issue. But it gets a little tougher having both teams at full strength until you remember, Matt, Toronto, not a great defense, even with Jakob Poeltl back. And you've got Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero looking at like they are at solid, appealing prices on DraftKings. Are they the two players you're looking at from this matchup?
Yeah, I think those are really the only two guys we're talking about from this whole game. Toronto looks like one of the worst teams on the slate. Bad matchup for them. They're healthy. No thanks on the Toronto side, unless you're playing like 150. Certainly wouldn't be just like taking them out of the pool, but I doubt you'd be getting much anyways. Paolo, I was all over him last game against Golden State. I just felt he was primed for a breakout after that Cavs game where they got destroyed by 40. He was really, really good, especially in the first half. He's cheaper now. He's too cheap at 8K. Of all the plays we've talked about so far, he's by far the best play. I'm not gonna go so far as to call him like a must play, but he's one of the better plays on the slate. Good matchup. Way too cheap at 8K in my eyes. Projects for over 43 fantasy points at 8K exactly. So I like Paolo a lot. I like Franz too. Basically the same price tag, 8,100. So you're spending $100 more, but you're getting an ownership discount. You're taking a little bit of a projection hit, but not really. So I think both Banchero and Wagner is the cheapest he's been in a minute. So I like both of them. I actually think you could play both of them together. You're eating up salary and early spots, but I think that they're two of the better mid-tier plays on the slate, and you could potentially like lock one or both of them in and then just fill out with value as it comes. I don't hate that idea.
All right. See if you can figure out what the trick you did last time for your playback volume. They're having trouble with you again. on that one. So looking at the boom bust tool, that's what I'm kind of relying on here to call out Wagner and Boncaro. So they're a duo that looks, reasonable. Things have sort of normalized throughout the day, but Boncaro still has almost a 4% positive leverage there. Let's look and see if Wagner's still positive. Wagner, yeah, people kind of caught up to it. He's about -5%. Still, those guys are relatively underrepresented in tournaments even for a 6-game slate here. But earlier today, they were really standing out in the tools. But we'll just have to keep looking because when nothing gets perfectly normalized, so as players, kind of get to where they ought to be, that means others are moving around. So anything else from this particular matchup here? And there are going to be matchups we're going to talk a lot about here.
No, not really. I had to leave playback, so why don't you let me back on
I'll
in there.
get you in there right now. Okay, you should have the invite again. All right, thank you everybody for your patience. We do appreciate that. Hey, I want to give a shout out here to Guitar Z-Man. Had one heck of a night. I think there was some issue with his lineups. Ended up building a couple by hand. I think he said he took third in the $4. Made just over $2,000 last night, and a free month of Sims of his choice because he got top 3 finish in a contest with at least 5,000 people in it. So check that out. That is the Stokastic Hall of Fame. You too can get in for free if you meet the parameters. Let's see. Ken Ratty asks, did I miss the New York Miami talk? No, there wasn't a whole lot. There's sort of question marks about who's going to start. We know Coach Spoelstra is going to work his magic, which is great for the Miami franchise, not so great when he makes in-game adjustments for the DFS world. But I'm also going to drop this Stokastic lineup page in here because there's some good game notes there on how the projections team is looking at things until we get the starting lineup.
You didn't even let me talk about the Knicks, so.
Oh, well, let's go back and let you talk about the Knicks.
I'm kidding. The Knicks look basically the same as Miami to me. I think Bam and Hero look about as good as Brunson and Cat. I'm with you on your points about Cat. I don't want to lock in the early salary. I think that you were right when you passed by it.
All right. Hey, everybody, let's relax. It's Sunday. And correct, it is a free show. Let's all be happy. We got 2 games at 6, 2 at 7, 2 at 9:30. Nothing too crazy should be going on. We've got over 1,000 people watching. Thank you. You really want to thank us and warm our hearts, hit that like button. That would be very helpful here as we continue through our games. Are you ready to look at the 2 7 o'clock games?
Let's do it.
OKC at San Antonio. Obviously, no Wembanyama changes things dramatically for San Antonio. This is also a back-to-back 3 and 4 situation. Charles Bassey is out on the Thunder side. Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Joe are out. Both teams have enough players that shouldn't matter a lot. The interesting thing, now remember we said, and we were talking about this, or I was talking about it. It was both of us last night, talking about how we can't really trust San Antonio because minutes have just been everywhere. Well, they've kind of consolidated a little bit last night. A few more guys got to 30 minutes than what we'd seen in the previous 4 games. But now we're on a back-to-back, man. So are we going to get rugged? When we look at it here, but let's start with the OKC side. They're 13-point favorites right now in San Antonio. What do you want to do with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? He's pretty good at the old basketballs.
He is. Again, this game, like the other 2, just isn't that great from a DFS perspective. I mean, OKC is so good defensively. They're massive favorites here. From the OKC side, I think Shai looks good. 10-5 is a fine tag. We don't have any true spend ups on this slate with Luka even under 11K if he plays. So I think Shai is a good play. I don't think he's a must play. I think you can build lineups that are good with him. I think you can build lineups that are good without him. So that's how I feel about Shai. Projected to be optimal about 14.5% of the time, 13% ownership. Looks like a good play to me. The guy that looks like a really strong play, though, is Hartenstein. 6,400, just a really cheap tag with no chat. So projects for 35 fantasy points. He's coming in a little bit over-owned, but nothing I'm worried about. So I like Hartenstein a lot. He's a priority play for me, at least as the slate looks right now. How do you see it?
Yeah, that definitely having Holmgren be out, while unfortunate, it does open up some opportunities there for Jalen Williams and for Hartenstein. And of course, when Holmgren missed that whole swath of time, we got to see what happened with when those guys didn't have to share rebounds and closer in offensive opportunities. So we kind of know what we're getting on that, and I concur. Things get a little tricky after their trio of SGA, Jalen Williams, and not that Jalen Williams, and Hartenstein. Makes it tough to go to anybody else. Maybe Wiggins gets enough minutes there to function. Maybe it's Case and Wallace. Alex Caruso always lurking, but this is a pretty deep team here. So it's tough to go beyond those big three. Is there anybody you like aside from those guys?
Yeah, the one guy I do like that he's cheap and he plays big minutes for them, basically regardless of the game script, is Cason Wallace. Projects for over 23 fantasy points at 4,100. 28% chance of being optimal right now, 20% ownership. He actually, at this moment, is he's the second highest, he's the second most leveraged player on the entire slate. So I like Cason Wallace a lot here. He gets you off of some Utah chalk, even though I like a lot of Utah. Cason Wallace, I like him and Hartenstein quite a bit.
All right, we just got the Orlando Magic starting lineup, same as it usually is. Cole Anthony, KCP, Wagner, Bancaro, and Wendell Carter Jr. Continuing along here to the other side of the game, do you feel trustworthy with anybody from San Antonio? A sprinkling, I think, is fine, but can you get overly excited about anybody with this tough matchup? And today that includes De'Aaron Fox, because we just saw Trae Young kind of get shut down by this Thunder squad.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Fox is a decent contrarian play. I mean, he's not projected for much ownership. No one on San Antonio is. I don't really see it with the Spurs other than like getting contrarian. I guess Sohan and Castle, two guys that are coming in with nice leverage, but neither of them look like great plays. So I'm pretty much out on San Antonio.
Castle had himself some moments in last night's game. I was watching that one, so that was kind of exciting with some of his long range shots. He's going to be a pretty good player, it looks like, at least a solid rotation contributor for the next decade. Okay, we are kind of at the halfway point. I see we got a couple super chats. We will talk about Terrence Shannon Jr. in that set of games, but I see the Thunder says, new to the Sims, do you guys mess with the uniques? So it's a good question. So 0 and 1 on the uniques, same thing, right? Because 0 is just means that, at least one player is going to be different anyway. So when you put it up to 2 or even 3, what that's doing is it's spreading out your player pool. And when you are doing that, you're reducing some of your risk, but you're also reducing some of your potential upside because it could take away some of your core players. Now, if you were trying to spread out the players that are on the lower end, the fringy guys, the tertiary targets, right? Those would be the players that you'd probably want to have a more of a sprinkling across your lineups. You may be better off setting those guys at like 10% ownership caps, because then it'll force it to look for other players. I don't personally mess much with the Sims, or pardon me, with the uniques. I think I probably will for baseball, but baseball almost inherently makes those changes for you anyway. If you're doing double stacks or, a 5 stack and one-offs, it's going to change things up enough with the pitchers and stuff. It should take care of itself. But, and I've heard Josh, Greg, and Eric all answer this question about the same. Greg usually doesn't change the uniques for basketball. Eric does occasionally, depending on what type of slate it is or what he's getting. And Josh does a lot of sorting and changing on his own already, so he doesn't need to do the uniques in the Sims. But what he's doing outside the Sims, or how he's looking at the ROI and some other things, he kind of is taking care of that. I'm not smart enough to get that, so I don't have the time to set that up. But that could be using the uniques to get there. But you're fine if you're not using them. Don't go too many, because it's just confetti at that point with your teams. But that's how it works. So sorry, I'm going to take a little bit of time, because I know there are only some people that get to watch us on the weekend. So this is a question that comes up about every other day during the week on the shows. Okay, we hit the halfway point. That was the public service announcement. Are you ready? Are you buckled up? Because it's New Orleans going against Utah. Utah is sitting pretty much everybody at this stage. There will be no Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, John Collins, Colin Sexton, or Jordan Clarkson. That's what happens when you get a surprise win. And that is now 2 different games that Minnesota has lost to these tanking teams, because the Wizards knocked them off, 6 weeks ago or so. So this is giving us all the value in the world for Utah. We get a little nervous when we're looking at Steve Mikhailiuk and Bryce Sensabaugh. Those guys look great. Yes, there are still 5 players missing, but Utah is still not short-handed per se. They're just putting out their next wave of understudies. And those guys have kind of iffy minutes. There are less good players to take their minutes, but I would trust a little, or trust is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in this sentence. I would prefer whichever of those 2 are starting, because we've seen Svi in what seemed like a good situation where he would be plugged in and had been previously, be a DNP CD. I don't think that's going to be the case tonight, but he could get 12 or 14 minutes, and that wouldn't be shocking. He could get 24 minutes. That also wouldn't be shocking. He gets a little nerve-wracking on there. So the guys that you want to look to are Kyle Filipowski. In his last 3 starts, he had, I'm going from memory here, but it was in my article, like 28, 30, and then like 45 fantasy points. So that's pretty good. The New Orleans front court, not exactly, a defensive mavens in Zion and Kelly Olynyk and Yves Missy, but Filipowski takes up a center spot. KJ Martin and Micah Potter are his backups per se. They feel a little dicey, but KJ Martin I would expect to get some minutes. The guards I think are pretty trustworthy. Isaiah Collier and who's the other guy? Keontae George. They usually overlap for about 4 to 6 minutes. We've seen when Clarkson has been out and Sexton was already out during this stretch, they get another 4 or 5 minutes of overlap in the games where Clarkson has been out. So they will play together. One of them will always be on the court, but they'll probably tonight have 7 or 8 minutes where they share the court together on that, which makes those guys good. And then you're playing the whack-a-mole with the forwards on that. What is your read on the Utah side? And then we'll talk about Zion, who I'm sure both love today.
Yeah, Utah looks like the best team on the slate. I mean, New Orleans is not very good. It's good matchups all around. And yeah, they're not like 7 deep, but they are shorthanded in that most of their good players are not playing. So they don't have depth. I like Isaiah Collier a lot. I like Keontae George a lot. You talked about both those guys. Filipowski looks like one of the biggest locks on the slate, if not the biggest. Projects for 34.5 fantasy points at 5,200. A ton to like there. Those 3 guys look like really good plays. I like Sensabaugh also, 4,300, projecting for about 26 fantasy points. I mean, those 4 guys right there look like 4 of the best plays on the slate. I understand getting off of some of them for ownership purposes, but I really like the Utah side here. And then let's talk about Zion. What's your take?
Wow, I like what they're doing. It's also fun seeing him kind of as the small forward, kind of air quotes there, because he's been starting alongside Missy and Olynyk. Let's see. Here are the notes. Coming off his best game of the season, got a triple-double. That was the 6th of his career. 27 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists, 2 blocks. He did go over 30 minutes. I think that's kind of the soft cap. But if we look at his last 5 games, he's averaging almost 29 minutes per game. That was the only one where he went over 30. He did earlier in the season, and then of course he missed a whole chunk of time. But that it's good to see this happening, and he is just getting all the usage in all the land when he is on the court. Let's see. He is in his 16 outings since the start of January. He's averaging 27.3 minutes. You're like, why would you want somebody playing 27.3 minutes? Well, friends, he is taking almost 17 field goal attempts, converting on 60% of them for 25 points, 7.3 boards, 5 assists, and 2.4 stocks. Let's see. He has 40 or more fantasy points in 13 of these 16 games. 5 of those 16 games, he has 50 or more fantasy points. And because he's missing the games, the algorithm and the minutes, the algorithm really hasn't pushed his salary to an untenable position yet. So and he's going against, good God, Micah Potter and Filipowski and KJ Martin. So this is not exactly a daunting front court. But what he is doing, Matt, and I'm going to turn this over to you, is he's kind of sucking the DFS life out of Trey Murphy and CJ McCollum. Those guys, the 3 of their last 4 games for each of them have not had 30 fantasy points. They've been in the 20s. Yikes.
Yeah, how disappointing was Murphy last game without those guys?
Yeah. Oh, he was a big part of my night too.
I mean, Zion is just an absolute monster when he's on the floor. Played over 30 minutes the last time he was on the court. He's a perfect run back with all these Utah guys. I mean, to your point, like there's no one that can stop him inside. He is going to absolutely eat here. I already liked him. Hearing you talk about him only makes me like him more. He looks like, I talked about Banchero and Franz Wagner. I like those guys. I think those 2 are 2 of the better, 8K plays on the slate. I like Zion a little bit more. So I think you can play multiple of those guys, but Zion would be my priority.
All right. Oh my God, you guys are correct. I am so wrong. I was calling this up in StatMuse because I called it up this morning and I said, how many triple doubles does he have? And 5 games popped up. I didn't read it that closely. You are correct. That is his first triple double. I don't know why it brought up the other 5 games because my query is the same as it was this morning. Give me Zion Williamson game logs for career triple doubles. And it pulled up 5 games, but only wanted to triple double. Mea culpa. You win. You win. His first career triple double. There we are. Kelly Olynyk and Missy actually have been okay in the games with the Zion. They do lose out a little bit on rebounding opportunities and field goal attempts. But again, they're still getting, there's 18 to 20 minutes where Zion's not on the court. So those guys are going to be there. They get the same great front court matchup. It's a remember me game for Olynyk if he remembers that he played for Utah once upon a time. Is there anything else that you would like for this game from this game? Because normally you're going to say, EMac, what about Grand Theft Alvarado? Well, he's kind of he's best off the bench. He's best used in 20 to 24 minutes, and he has potentially been supplanted in this. He wasn't in the starting lineup, but he has fallen behind Jordan Hawkins, who got a hot start courtesy of his hot hand approach, and Bruce Brown Jr. is playing now. So that's taking away some of those minutes that Alvarado was getting. And if Alvarado's not out there for minutes, he can't get steals. And if he can't get steals, he doesn't have a good fantasy score. So Grand Theft Alvarado, while it's fun to say, I don't want to play him tonight. What do you like from the non-Zion Pelicans?
Nothing. You talked about it. I mean, Zion is zapping the fantasy prowess from everyone around him. He just is such a usage hog. I think you can make contrarian takes for like Trey Murphy. He's actually getting a little bit of love. He projects well, so I don't mind that play. I like the 8K guys from Orlando more though. So I think Murphy would probably be the next best option. Maybe McCollum 6,800, but the only priority for me would be or is Zion.
Let's take a moment here. I see Nightbot got there, but I'm going to drop it in here as well. This is the link join. So you guys have heard us talk about the link join. We dropped the link. You join the sites. We've added to the operators. We have 2 new ones here. We have Fanatics, which is it's a pick'em site, but they do have sides on them. I don't quite understand how that works, but it does, and they are available in 49 states. So it is okay to use them, especially if you're in a state that doesn't have sports wagering. We also have added Chalkboard. That is your more traditional pick'em sites. The one cool thing about that, it's only on app form right now, but they usually do 3 or 4 discounted player props throughout the day. So you'll want to turn your notifications on if you're using that. Why do you want to sign up through our links? Well, because not only are you going to get the bonuses that are listed there on that page, you're also going to get, if you follow these instructions and go through our link, you're going to get 30 days of the single sport sims package of your choice. We've got NBA right now, but baseball right around the corner. You could stack these, and I'm sure most of you guys haven't signed up for Chalkboard, and probably not Fanatics either. But sign up. All we need to see is your welcome email, screenshot of your first settled wager or pick'em card. These instructions are all at the top of the page here. And then you send that to support@stokastic.com, and we will get you squared away for 30 days of the single sport sims package of your choice. All righty, we should be getting some news here with the 5:30 injury report just getting posted, but let's finish up our games. Matt, you've got the battle for LA, the Lakers versus the Clippers. This one is again on the Lakers home court, which remember the Clippers now play in a different arena. We saw, what was it, a 106-102 game? I think that was Friday, but it was not on the main slate, so a lot of people may not have caught that. Moving parts here, there are a lot of them. Luka and LeBron, game time decisions right now. Questionable, right? We're going to see this down the stretch, but until we know otherwise, they're questionable. Austin Reeves is out, hurt himself in the first quarter, strained his calf. Rui Hachimura out for at least a week. So that weakens the front court. And the primary, we'll call Reeves kind of the primary ball handler, even though it's Luka and LeBron. But Jordan Goodwin would be the next man up. He came in and sort of got the rotations when Reeves went out. He's out as well. So I think Gabe Vincent is probably going to get a start today. Probably we'll see DFS Dorian Finney-Smith get a start again. But what this does, if one of Luka or LeBron are out, the other is awesome. If they're both in, they're absolutely fine plays. If for some reason they are both out, well, we've got a ton of usage because now the Lakers would be down their 3 best players here. On the Clippers side, Norman Powell is back after missing a handful of games. Derrick Jones Jr. is out, so we'll have to see what happens there. I don't think that changes their. Does that change their starting lineup? No, because Powell coming back. There was Chris Dunn got a spot start, put up 40 fantasy points on.
Burks is starting, by the way.
Oh, okay. So that makes things interesting for these guys here. What do you want to? What is your sort of read on the battle for Los Angeles here? And of course, we don't know the 2 biggest question marks on the slate.
Yeah, I kind of expect both of them to play. They both seem to carry questionable tags more often than not. And they both usually play, especially LeBron. So, again, all games are important in the West, fighting for playoff seeding and positioning. So, I lean that they play. Obviously, if one is out, the other looks amazing, even in a not great matchup, just because you already have Reeves out. So, if you get Reeves is out. If you get one of LeBron or Luka out, the other one looks really good. The fringe pieces could very well be in play. It's just hard to know who. No Rui already, no Goodwin, as you mentioned, like Dalton Connect, Gabe Vincent. I mean, I think these guys are worth flyers in tournaments, but I don't think they're really anything more than that, especially in a matchup with the Clippers. It's just not an ideal pace spot. So I don't love this game at all, but you could get some viability if you get some Lakers news working in your favor.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to call out that score, this is not a high flying game last time, right? You've got everything consolidated with the main stars, which is helpful. And if they're out, now we're kind of playing the guessing game here. But Dorian Finney-Smith, he's played 23 games as a Lakers, started 7. He doesn't have a 25 fantasy point game yet, and he's averaging 26 minutes in these games, right? He's a 3 and D wing. That's his whole point. Vincent, he defers to all these guys. But if if Luka or LeBron are out, then that can change things for Vincent because, he's another, defense first, but he's also a good 3-point shooter. If he gets a little volume, that could be helpful, which is why we bring that up. You've got Jackson Hayes and Trey Jamison splitting the center minutes. Alex Len has not played in 3 games, so he didn't play the last time, and Rui was out in that one, and they're going against Zubac, who I think is a good play today as well. But it's sort of like, wow, the Lakers are very consolidated in what we want to do, and if if a second or a third of their big 3 are out, we don't really have much precedence for seeing that with the way things are constructed, because now Jared Vanderbilt's back, right? So you've got all these healthy players that are available. We don't know how these roles are going to shake out, which just makes it interesting. All right, last game of the night. When we'll circle back onto the starting lineups, we'll take some other questions. But we did have one. Says, "Hi guys, Terrence Shannon is in 20% of my FanDuel lineups. How many minutes is he projected, and can he still have 28 minutes if Anthony Edwards is out?" So these are great questions. I think we're projecting him for 12 minutes or 14 minutes. I'll call it up.
And Randall's expected to be back tonight.
Yeah, so Randall is expected to be back. He's been out for I don't know how many games. Dante DiVincenzo also is available. So it really needs to be Edwards being, oh, we just got an update. Nice. We really need to see Edwards out for Shannon to have much of an impact. We are projecting him for 12.4 minutes. So, and that's, well, actually, let's just quickly talk because this is a good question. So let's just talk through this. Go to Minnesota here. So we're projecting Edwards for almost 37 minutes, right? So that's the big, if he's out, then all bets are off. We got Naz Reid for 35, Julius Randle at 27.5. Now, Randle plays more than that, but he hasn't played in forever. So he's got to get some conditioning up. We've got Jaden McDaniels for 37 minutes, right? He's kind of the glue guy. Dante DiVincenzo for 26 minutes, Conley for 24, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, right? He's going to play over Shannon. We've got him for 28 minutes. So if all those guys are playing, Shannon becomes, an extreme punt option. Probably needs to get there through mop-up duty or incredible efficiency. And that's a tough ask. If we start, if Randall is out or Edwards is out, in particular Edwards, but if Randall doesn't play or we hear, oh, it's only 20 minutes and DiVincenzo's only going to play 24 minutes, then you have a few minutes that could float to him. But that's a dicey play, especially with all the Utah value out there. Let's assume everybody's in. Randall, etc., on these minutes that I just said. How you feeling about Edwards, Reed, etc., going against Phoenix?
Yeah, I think Minnesota looks a little bit murkier than they have. I do like Ant, though. I mean, it's Ant. What's not to like? I think he plays here. He usually always plays when he's questionable. He talks about that. I know he is actually fighting something, but I expect him to play here. Missed a lot of last game because he got thrown out. He's a little bit more rested than the rest of his teammates. Randall being back does throw a wrench in that, so I don't think Ant is a must play, but he looks good here. Projects for over 46 fantasy points at 9K. He's a good play. Other than that, from Minnesota, I'm not sure you can go to Naz now with Randall back, although I don't hate it. Naz is just really good. Don't love it other than that, though. They're just getting healthier. So the fringe pieces, Randall's back, DiVincenzo's back. I'm out on the secondary, third, tertiary guys for Minnesota tonight.
So I'm looking at our notes here. Again, the starting lineup page, quite helpful. You guys got I'm gonna drop this in chat again. So the projections guys say Julius Randle is listed as questionable, but he intends on returning to the lineup after missing a month with a groin injury. He would most likely be on a minutes restriction tonight. Jalen Clark and Terrence Shannon would see their minutes cut most likely. We are projecting Terrence Shannon to start, but there's a lot of players that could play over him with Walker and McDaniel, et cetera, et cetera. So Let me drop this into the chat. And then that takes us to Phoenix. Bradley Beal, questionable. The big three are playing insane minutes. It's only a matter of time before another one goes down. What do you want to do with Phoenix here? Because this is no longer a staunch Minnesota defense with Rudy Gobert out.
Yeah, Phoenix is hard to talk about because if Beal is in, I don't really like much from them. I think that their studs are always in play, but not like dying to roster Phoenix guys if Beal is in. If Beal is out, all of a sudden Durant and Booker look better. Bol will presumably still be starting, even though I think he could be starting anyways. I think Bol is my favorite piece of this game, no matter what. And then Beal being out would just make me like him and other guys more. How about you?
So why, and forgive me because I don't know that. I mean, I can guess at the answer, but why is Bol not playing very, or how is he, fallen out of favor with multiple teams? Is it his defense? I mean, obviously he's got good off ball defense and he can
Yes,
get
it is his
weak side
defense.
blocks, but he can't really front people. But he's a decent 3-point shooter. So it's like he is a poor man's Michael Porter Jr. Is that a fair statement? Although albeit much taller. Is he?
And
Do you
he is
think he's it?
supremely skilled. I don't look at them the same. I mean, he's like Wemby, like in his skill set. I mean, in his length. So that's who I look at. He's like a poor man's Wemby. Certainly not 7'6" and not as good. And the defense isn't there because he's not, again, as much of a physical freak, but he is a freak in that he's super tall and his offensive game is really, really good, both inside and out. He just falls asleep defensively far too often. So I get why he doesn't play, but I also think there's a role for him in the NBA because he is really, really skilled offensively.
Yeah, it's interesting, and of course we care about offense because that's what most DFS scoring is based on. So the prism we're viewing this through is quite different than the actual NBA talent evaluators. What we want doesn't necessarily align with what they actually need on the court. But I found it kind of interesting, and he seems to be providing a bit of a spark. And at this point, Phoenix is a tire fire inside of a dumpster fire. They just can't seem to get much going in their favor. Our starting lineup. So Alec Burks ends up starting. You have Davion Mitchell, Tyler Hero, Alec Burks, Bam Adebayo, and Ware. So how you feeling about Burks? And then just quickly, standard starting lineups: Brunson, Bridges, Hart, Anunoby, and Cat. Quickly, Dick, Barrett, Barnes, and Pirtle. What do you think here about Alec Burks starting now? You gonna like him a little more?
Nah, I mean, I think if
What?
you
You don't
need, no, I
remember
mean,
me game against one of the 6 teams he's played for? Come on.
what's to like about him? I mean, besides, he's 3,200. He played 21 minutes last game, got you 18 fantasy points. He did have a stretch where he was pretty good, but I want to say a bunch of those games were without Hero. That said, like, you could do worse at 3,200. I mean, 3,200 is still 3,200. So I'd much rather play Case and Wallace, but like if I need to get up from him, I don't hate the Burke shout out. That's all I'll say.
All right, I'm running my FanDuel lineups.
Let's
Let's
see what
see
he
what he
projects for right
gets.
now.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else we got in chat. On FanDuel, are there any must starts for the first 2 games? Ooh, let's go take a look since we just got the player
He
popularity
projects for 20
section.
fantasy points. He's projecting for 56% owned. I was completely off there. I mean, I'm surprised by that, but I think it's the Hawkes injury also doing a lot of that, both him and Wiggins. He's going to play a bunch here. So yeah, I'm on board with Burks. I don't love it, especially at high ownership, but he's got a place on this slate. That's for damn sure. You were
All right,
right. I was wrong.
there we go. There we go. And 1, 2, you can just assume that's how Matt's answering your question as well there. We have from that first game, is there anybody crucial on FanDuel that we can't live without? Franz Wagner is on 31% of the lineups. Ware is down to 22% of the lineups, and Burks is 20%. Paulo Banchero, 20%. So the answer is no. You could live without those guys. And I mean, yes, if one of them smashes like Duran did last night, then yes, that's a problem. If they don't, then it's not, and the field is not exactly there on them because the top four plays come in with what does that work out to, like about 110% ownership, and you're looking at on FanDuel 900% would be a full team. So, is Luke Garza projected? Let me see. Luke Garza is not projected for minutes at this point. Jalen Clark is projected for 11. Dillingham projected for 1.5. So again, DiVincenzo and Julius Randle really come in and steal those wing minutes, those and backcourt minutes by proxy. All right, simulating lineups. Oh, I must be logged in. Is this my layoff notice? Am I getting laid off? Nope, I'm in. All right, but now I got to redo this. First world problems, Matt. First world problems. We've got 13 minutes. That's an eternity. So we have to ask the key question. Am I going to get my lineups in? I didn't on Friday. I ran 100% Jokic on DraftKings. This is the only player I played. Turned out to be a pretty decent move because a few of my lineups also had Jason Tatum in them. Those were the ones that made me happy. That sort of made up for my 30% on both sides of, who was it? Porzingis with his before the game but after lock illness scratch.
That was awful.
These start times for these, baseball, when they say Toronto is starting at 107 on a Saturday, Toronto starts at 107 on a Saturday. The Blue Jays do, right? When the teams say it's a 105, when it's 10 minutes after, like they do in Arizona, or I guess Arizona goes for 20 minutes before the hour a lot of the times, and then who is it? Colorado's usually wonky. They start on time. How is that even possible? Basketball just needs to acknowledge their real start time. The sites used to run into this problem when they first did NASCAR DFS, because NASCAR, the start time, there's the prayer, there's the driver introductions, there's the song, the Star Spangled Banner, there's the whoever is the grand marshal in the pace car, right? All that crap takes like 35 minutes, 40 minutes. The sites finally got better, more like, the races really aren't starting at this point in time. They need to do that with basketball. But it's weird because sometimes those TV games sometimes do start. Matt, we've seen it in the playoffs too. And all of a sudden you're like, what?
The national TV games sometimes, like the TNT games, sometimes will start right at 7 or 8. That's about it, though.
Do you have a nuke?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a guy that we talked about earlier. I'm going to circle back on him. Isaiah Hartenstein, 6,400.
Okay.
With no Chet. All the OKC looks better, not going to lie. It's a really good matchup. You worry about San Antonio keeping the game close, but man, OKC looks good all over. They're cheaper than they usually are. Jalen Williams, his average tag on the year is over 8,100. He's 7,600. Shea's about his average tag. So I like OKC a lot, but Isaiah Hartenstein is going to be my nuke.
All right. We've each mentioned Zion as nukes in our past shows, so I will forego Zion, even though I really like him. I will go with Zubac today.
Interesting. I like that call. He's not going to be owned at all.
Let's see here. They start at 7:10 because of commercials. Yes, but they could just say they're starting at 7:10 instead of the charade.
Right. You don't care that they start at 7:10. You'd care that they say they're starting at 7, or that DK locks at 7, however you want to put it.
Yes. Yeah. If the pick'em sites go, they keep the sports wagering keeps open until the actual tip off. DFS sites, not so much. All right, let's see who's popping up in my 150 here on FanDuel. I am getting, oh dear God, 98% Kyle Filipowski. That feels like a bit much. Well, the field's at 73. I don't want to go more than 90. Not much. Oh my God. Dante DiVincenzo at 70%. The field's at 30. I think the field's better off. We're going to go with the old Brian Bosworth, the monster defensive back, 44. Khalil Ware at 53. I'm going to go 44, but you know what I just realized? I should not be putting in 90% here because that's the ROI boosts. If you're in the wrong screen, you can what? Kyle Filipowski's on 130% of my lineups? How's that possible? All right, 90, 44, 44. I like Collier. I like Zion. Oof, Bryce Sensabaugh. Yeah, we can always swap out of that. Luca. All right, so who am I boosting? I'm going to go in here. I'm going to boost Zuby Dooby. He is coming in on 9% of my lineups, giving him a 25% bump. I would like LeBron. He's coming in at 27%, fields at 31. I'm going to bump him just a little bit. Same thing with Luca. And Luca's already coming in double the field, so I'm good with that. Key things on doing that. There's 2 games going off at 9:30, so I've got some outs where I could spend, between Anthony Edwards, LeBron James, and Doncic. One of them should be playing at least. So, and then there's always Kawhi or Harden. So there's ways to spend that money. Let me. Who's Zion? Oh, we already got him. All right, so let's boost that and let's see what that did to Zubat. And I saw someone say 3 to 4 uniques in chat. Thank me later. Uniques, whatever your style of play is, whatever your risk tolerance are, whatever your goals are, you follow that. Understand what makes you the most comfortable on that. Play around with it, see what it does. Let's see. So I got Zubac up to 30%. So I'm going to go with that. Let's download those and we'll do DraftKings. 7 minutes to go. I said I'm going to download. Why is my download button not working? This is, what am I doing? So riveting. I know. Hang on. There we go. Okay. Just had to coax it in there. How many lineups you going with tonight, Matt?
Just the one.
Just the one. Do you have any Lakers?
No.
How many Utah guys?
Right now, 2, but I'm thinking about getting a third. I'm not sure yet.
All right. Is Collier one of them?
He is the third. He's like the one I'm debating on right now.
All right, uploading that. Collier is kind of interesting because he's not going to be a starter when Sexton is back, right? He kind of goes as the starter now. George, for whatever reason, comes off the bench, but when Sexton plays, I think Collier drops to the third option in that. Just kind of a weird thing to say, but it's just kind of my read on that situation. I could be wrong. Last time I checked, I was not a GM, nor did I spend the night in the Holiday Express. They don't do those commercials anymore.
I don't think so. I don't think so. No.
I really want to show how old I am. We'll talk about Tom Bodett, Motel 6. He'll leave the light on for you. No one's gonna get
wow.
That. Malachar, come on, buddy. You're in there. Stephen Leibowitz, come on. Motel 6 and Motel 8 because rooms used to cost $6 and $8 a night. People don't know that. All right,
you're going way back.
The Jazz are big on Collier. He'll finish the year as a starter. I think he will get there. I just think I don't know. We'll see. I don't follow the Jazz closely enough. The real AD. There's a story. Banned from Motel 6 for life.
I need to hear that one.
This is going to be good. Do tell. We have 4 minutes. When you say Bud, you've said it all. Now we're just throwing out old hats. Less filling tastes great. Oh, Orion. I'm sorry. Let me take a peek here. Oh, shoot. No, I did not. This is from Orion. FanDuel GPP. DiVincenzo and KCP, or Burks and Alexander Walker.
Damn. Probably Burks, but I'm not loving it. I don't love the Alexander Walker here, but whoever the second was, the second one, the
Burks
first
and Alexander Walker. It's the DiVincenzo part. Just it's a little hard because we don't know for sure what the minutes are going to be.
Sure.
He could get. I mean, what was it? It was big toe. That was his issue. He might get more if Anthony Edwards is out, but you got to make this call now. I would probably take the Burks side and feel mostly comfortable. Let's get that simulated here. Let's see what else we got coming into the chat. Malakar had hamburgers for 25 cents. I remember in college, they on Sundays, they would do at McDonald's hamburgers, not the cheeseburgers. Hamburgers were 10 cents each. And we would go down with $1 and get like 10 of them. We wouldn't eat all of them at that meeting. We would take some of them home for dinner because the kitchen wasn't open on Sunday. Let's see. And because it was about, I don't know, a 20-minute walk there, the enterprising people would buy like 20 of them and then sell them back at the fraternity to the hungover people who didn't want to walk the 40-minute round trip because we didn't have cars back then. It was horse and carriage. I've never been to White Castle.
I've been. It's the dregs of fast food though. I mean, it's low down there in my opinion. I don't even really like fast food. There are times for it, but I'm usually not going out of my way for it. White Castle. I don't even think there's one by me anymore. I think most of that, like the brick and mortar stores, like closed. But yeah, I've had it. The square cheeseburgers. I was never a big fan. Not gonna lie.
All right, I'm panicking because I only have 90 seconds to get these lineups in. That's sheer terror you guys are seeing on my face right now. I am okay. Why is Excel causing me problems? This will answer the question. Is there anybody I must play in that first game? Well, no must plays, but I'm gonna get. Am I gonna get this in? And it's the moment of truth. Whew. Lineups are in. EMac doing EMac things. John Prince, you are correct. These EMac struggles are always so entertaining. Barnaby O'Toole, you are stressing me out. Oh, there we go. Malakar, love to hear that. Love to hear that. Let's see. Oh, there you go. Guitar Z-Man. Oh, player ID tags. Yeah, that's helpful. That's helpful. Because if you don't have those, you can't upload. Becomes a problem. All right, we made it. We made it to lock. We had a good show. We got 1,000 people watching. Hit that like button. I'm gonna go have some dessert. Had dinner before the show because mom eats early, and I was making dinner. Super nachos. They were very tasty. Extra
What's for dessert?
Some sort of ice cream. We had gelato the other night, but now we're at a different place. So I think we have actual ice cream at this house. So
Okay.
We shall see. It'll be fun. And then I'm going to go get my eyes dilated first thing in the morning. So that's going to be exciting. But that's the problems of a 50-year-old. With that, gamers, guys, go follow Matt on Twitter at Fantasy Tips Matt. You could find me at EMac DFS. Shout out to producer Jacob. Follow us on Stokastic_COM on Twitter. With that, gamers, good luck.